We talk about Julio Jones here. And when we look at the Atlanta Falcons, we know what the problem has been. There's been injuries, and it's been primarily on the defensive side of the ball. That's really what their problem has been. Coaching to some degree, which is what cost Quinn his job. We understand all of that. But Julio Jones ain't the problem. Julio Jones is a part of the solution. And when I think about that and the fact that he's 32 years of age and he still has plenty of time left in his career, you make moves to get talent like him on your squad. And if you sit up there and you play, you got a defense and you make things happen, you make smarter decisions like running the football instead of throwing it when you got a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl, this dude would be a champion and be revered even more. I just look at it from that standpoint. I think that I don't think that his best years are completely beyond him. I still think he's capable of doing what we saw him do before last season if you get him the right teammates around him.
That makes no sense. Listen to what you're saying, Stephen A. He's part of the solution, but the solution is, what are you going to win, 5 or 6 games? Like, this is not a team that's about to win a whole lot or challenge for a Super Bowl. You think the Falcons are going to challenge for the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, I think it's possible. Their offense is high-powered.
Well,
if you get any kind of defense, you can do something.
In a while, and they have defensive problems. And here's the issue. They also have cap problems. So the restructured Matt Ryan's deal, they're not going to trade him and pay some other team or pay his salary for him to quarterback some other team. So the likely asset that they have to move is Julio Jones. Now, I could keep Julio Jones on my team, who you're right about, generational talent. Julio Jones is the perfect receiver. He's perfect in the locker room. He's perfect, as a citizen in terms of a face of a franchise or among the faces of a franchise. He's 6'3", 220 pounds, perfect size. He's got downfield speed. He can be your deep threat. He can be a 50-50 ball guy. Like, he's perfect. He's like the best all-around guy, right, when he's healthy. But here's the thing. He's 32 years old. He's playing on a team I don't think is going to challenge anytime soon. So what do you do with him? Do you want Julio Jones and all his greatness on your team to win 6 games or 8 games or whatever, if you think it's going to be more than 5 or 6 games? Or would you like what you can get for Julio Jones now to start building for the future? Seriously, building for the future. The best argument to not trade Julio Jones right now is maybe his trade stock's a little low because he has been hurt. And the year before, it wasn't statistically one of his best years. Maybe that's the best argument, but I would still say at the age of 32, given the way he is perceived around the league, you can get a haul for him now.
Well, the argument that you can make is that their cap situation is bad. It's one of the worst in the National Football League. So as a result, trading somebody of his quality obviously comes into play when you're cap strapped, and we understand that. What I'm saying is that you keeping Matt Ryan. Last time I checked, I don't think he's going anywhere for the foreseeable future, at least for the next year. So if I've got a guy like him, the veteran at quarterback, and I got a stud like Calvin Ridley, I'm going to keep a Julio Jones as well, especially when I don't have a running game to speak of, to be quite honest with you, something that's relied and you can etch in there. How the hell are you going to score the ball? You got to make sure you do something. And so I look at that and I look at their defense. Obviously, they got a lot of improving to do. They suffered through a lot of injuries. We get all that, but this is the National Football League, bro. There's been plenty of instances, plenty of occasions where we've seen teams come from nowhere to at least make the postseason and have a chance, Max Kellerman. With baseball and other places, that might be different. But in the sport of football, parity truly exists.
Absolutely.
But what happens one year may not necessarily be applicable the next year.
All right, let's move it forward. Max, who should the Falcons trade with?
Baltimore, the Ravens. I look at Lamar Jackson, and let's start seeing he's a very promising rookie year, obviously, but also as a passer, in fact, which was slept on. But the trajectory, he hasn't developed every year as a passer. And I'd like to know, and I suspect it's because he doesn't really have enough dynamic weapons on offense, and I get the kind of offense they run, and maybe it's not going to look the same as other offenses, but Stephen A., Hollywood Brown's a pretty good receiver. He could be a downfield threat. But as your number one, no. If you add Julio Jones, you give Lamar Jackson a weapon, whatever the numbers turn out to be, a weapon who can do everything. Like Julio Jones, that makes all the other receivers better. When you start looking at the depth chart, you start looking at who's wide receiver 2 and 3 and all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, wait a minute, now that ain't so bad. Now Hollywood Brown could be a problem, and Julio Jones could be a problem. And we'll find out right quick about Lamar Jackson's development. I think Julio Jones on that team makes them real Super Bowl contenders.
Well, you could say that. I would tell you if the New England Patriots get Jimmy Garoppolo back, or draft a quarterback like Mac Jones, they move up to get somebody like him. Having a safety net like Julio Jones certainly wouldn't hurt, particularly since Bill Belichick pretty much addressed every other need that they had coming into this offseason. He's just looking for a quarterback and an upgrade at the wide receiver spot, obviously. But number one on my list would be the Buffalo Bills, Max Kellerman. Buffalo Bills did go 13-3 last year. They were in a divisional playoff game. I think it was, maybe an AFC Championship game, if I remember correctly. You've got that going on. Then you've got to take into account the fact that you got Stephon Diggs, who caught about 127 catches for about 1,535 yards, which led the NFL last year. Then you've got Josh Allen, a young stud who threw for 37 touchdowns and just 10 interceptions. And what was the real problem against the Kansas City Chiefs? They were bereft of weapons. They didn't really have anybody other than a Stephon Diggs to get the football to. And so if you're really talking about competing in the AFC and positioning yourself to compete legitimately for a Super Bowl title coming out of the AFC conference, then I would tell you the Buffalo Bills would be at the top of my list.
I mean, they signed Emmanuel Sanders, and yeah, would he make the Buffalo Bills even better? Yeah, that would be that would be a big-time move by them to add a guy like that if it was possible and have just an impossible receiving core because you're going head-to-head, obviously, in that conference with the Chiefs. That's really the team you're trying to get by. I'm just saying, that's like an embarrassment of riches for Josh Allen. You add Julio Jones to that. Lamar Jackson.
Well, don't you need that to beat Patrick Mahomes?
How'd that work out for Tom Brady when he had an embarrassment of riches?
Don't you need that to beat Patrick Mahomes? And Buffalo already beat Baltimore. So I'm saying you want to take it a step forward. I mean, hey, I think the Buffalo Bills would be a perfect situation for Julio Jones.
I hear you if they could get him. I'm saying, could Lamar get one? Could he get one dude? Yeah. Could he have one guy like that while other quarterbacks have like 2 and 3 sometimes of like incredible receiving targets? Give Lamar one guy.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.